Atari vs. Nintendo, the lawsuit that changed gaming forever. What if I told you that before Nintendo ruled the gaming world, Atari tried to stop them with a lawsuit? This story isn't just about video games. It's about power, money, and the battle to control the future of an entire industry. In the early 1980s, Atari was the king of video games. Their system, the Atari 2600, dominated living rooms across America. For millions of kids, it was their very first console. The Atari name carried weight, and the company seemed unstoppable. But cracks soon began to show. The video game market was flooded with low-quality titles, rushed to shelves just to make a profit. Infamously, the game E.T. the Extraterrestrial became the symbol of this downfall, a rushed, broken game that consumers rejected. Retailers were left with piles of unsold cartridges, and confidence in video games collapsed. By 1983, what became known as the video game crash hit the industry hard. Atari, once the king, was suddenly vulnerable. And then came Nintendo. In 1985, Nintendo released the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, in the US. At first, retailers were skeptical. Many thought video games were a dead fad. But the NES was different. With iconic titles like Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda, the system reignited a passion for gaming. Nintendo didn't just enter the American market. They revived it. For Atari, this was devastating. They had gone from being the leader to being overshadowed almost overnight. Nintendo's rise wasn't just success, it was domination. And Atari felt cornered. In 1988, Atari made their move. They filed a lawsuit against Nintendo, accusing them of being a monopoly. The heart of the case was Nintendo's strict licensing practices. If you were a game developer in the late 80s and you wanted to release a game on the NES, you had to sign Nintendo's terms. Those terms were tough. Nintendo limited how many games a company could release per year. They required publishers to manufacture cartridges only through Nintendo. And they enforced rules that kept those games exclusive to the NES for a period of time. To Atari, this wasn't fair competition, it was a stranglehold. They argued that Nintendo was using its power to block other consoles from getting quality games. Atari believed this was the reason they couldn't recover, and why developers were flocking to Nintendo instead. Nintendo, on the other hand, fought back hard. They argued that these licensing rules were necessary. After all, it was poor quality control that had destroyed the industry in 1983. By enforcing strict rules, Nintendo claimed, they were protecting consumers and ensuring video games would never collapse again. The courtroom battle became a media spectacle. On one side, the once mighty Atari fighting for survival. On the other, Nintendo, the new powerhouse determined to protect its empire. Industry insiders, lawyers, and gamers alike followed the case closely. Everyone knew the outcome could shape the future of gaming. But in the end, the courts sided with Nintendo. The judge ruled that Nintendo's licensing system did not violate antitrust laws. In other words, their business practices were aggressive but not illegal. Atari had lost. The loss was devastating. Nintendo's grip on the late 80s and early 90s gaming market remained strong. The NES sold over 60 million units worldwide, while Atari struggled to stay relevant. Even future Atari consoles couldn't shake Nintendo's dominance. The lawsuit had been Atari's last big gamble, and it failed. As years went by, Atari faded further into obscurity. Meanwhile, Nintendo became a household name, cementing itself with future systems like the Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, and beyond. The lawsuit didn't just decide who won in court. It decided who would carry video games into the future. Looking back, the battle between Atari and Nintendo wasn't just about one lawsuit. It was about how video games would be controlled, distributed, and marketed. It set the stage for the modern console world we know today, where companies like Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo still hold tight control over their platforms. The story of Atari versus Nintendo is more than a legal fight. It's the story of a fallen king challenging a rising empire. And ultimately, it's the story of how Nintendo cemented its legacy at the very top of the gaming world. So the next time you pick up a controller to play Mario, Zelda, or any modern Nintendo game, remember, it all could have been very different if Atari had won that lawsuit. Thanks for watching. If you love this deep dive into gaming history, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories from the world of video games. Hit the bell so you don't miss any of our future videos, and share your favorite retro gaming memories below. Until next time, keep gaming and stay curious.